Good afternoon and welcome to the Boca Voice. I'm here with my good friend Armand Grossman. Welcome.
Peter, good to be with you as always.
Thank you. I brought Armand with us today because we're going to do a series on growth in Boca Raton. And if anyone that knows Boca knows Armand, and he's been a fixture in Boca Raton for many, many, many years, as well as in South Florida. I mean, you moved to Boca, or not in Boca, but you moved to South Florida in 1965, right?
In Boca.
And so you've been here for a while, so I don't think anybody can argue the fact that you're a subject matter expert of Boca Raton.
I have seen some changes.
Okay. So when you moved to Boca and you came down here, what got you involved in Boca Raton and in Palm Beach County? What were kind of some of the things that brought you down here?
Well, ideally, I came here to go to Florida Atlantic University. It was the first year the school was opened. It was an absolutely fantastic school, and that was a justification. I would like to point out that it was one of the best academic schools. It was a unique school. It was an upper division school with juniors and seniors and grad schools, and those first faculty hires at Florida Atlantic University were incredible. So it had a reputation of being an academic school, and I would like to promote that reason. That's why I came here. But
that's
you
awesome.
but you would not believe that, and that's not true. I loved Florida. I used to come down to Florida on spring break when I was a student in Ohio. And I came to Fort Lauderdale and I said, I love this place. This is the greatest place. And there was a reason to love that. And so I fell in love with this. And I love the beautiful turquoise water, the beaches, the palm trees, the Florida lifestyle. And Pete, I feel exactly the same way today. I'm enamored with it. I love it.
People go away to go to vacation. It's funny. I go away to vacation and I go to interesting places, but whenever I'm there, I'm thinking, why did I spend all this money to go away when I could go right to my backyard and be right where I'm at?
Well, it's really interesting because you and I are not alone. Last year I attended the Republicans Governors Conference, which was at the Boca Resort, and there's so much action right here in Palm Beach County. It is the best. And I had the opportunity to speak with a couple of governors, and you get to know them and under those circumstances, and they asked me, where do you live? I said, across the street. They said, you live here? I said, and Bobby Jindal said to me, where do you go on vacation? You know, we take this all for granted, but we live in paradise, and we really do. And when I go down by the ocean, I look at that beautiful crystal blue water. It's just as clear as a bell. This place is really special.
That's phenomenal. Well, you know, to that point, you actually were involved, if I'm not mistaken, with Palm Beach County and the Planning Commission, correct?
That's correct. I was the mayor's appointment to the Palm Beach County, and I served on that for one term, and I was elected vice chair. I was very proud of my colleagues who elected me vice chair of the commission, and it was a fantastic experience. I can say nothing but the best of the people who serve on that panel. I worked with some of the brightest people who worked extremely hard and were very dedicated to controlling and proper growth in Palm Beach County.
So tell some of our listeners what exactly is done on a planning commission so they get a grasp of what a planning commission does.
Well, that's really interesting because it's a very delicate balance because of the growth factor, which continues to grow. And with Palm Beach County, in retrospect, when I came to Florida, what is now Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, the total aggregate population of those three counties exceed what was the state of Florida at that particular time.
Really?
So we have seen incredible growth.
And what year is that?
That was since 1965. When my in-laws moved to Florida and went to school and came to Florida, there was less than 900,000 people in the state of Florida. Today we have over 20 million people in the state of Florida. We are now have an economy which is approaching $1 trillion. Florida will become the 16th largest economy. Florida will be the 16th largest economy in the world. The tremendous growth in Florida is done for a number of reasons. First of all, people are attracted to the weather, but it's not just weather. Why isn't it just weather? The governance plays a huge role. Tony Robbins lived in California all of his life, just moved to Palm Beach County. Why? Taxes. We have the low tax rate, you can have a personal income tax, and it's a great place for people to retire. So at this time, still, 1,000 people a day move to the state of Florida.
That's unbelievable.
Now, that requires proper management, and it takes a perspective of the leadership and the governance to manage that and make sure that the growth is done in a responsible way. And so the Palm Beach County Planning Commission played a significant role in that. And there were 5 major trends that emerged.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Number one growth area is coastal. when you're near the water, people want to be near the ocean.
Sure.
The second area was rural land. We had a very delicate balance. Interestingly enough, a fact that most people do not realize, that Palm Beach County is actually the #1 agricultural county in the country, in the state, maybe in the country. We produce over $1.3 billion worth of aggregate product, over $500,000 in sugar, nearly $400 million in vegetables. So we feed a lot of people, then forestry, and then cattle as well. So with all that land, the encroachment into every time you encroach into the rural properties, and
sure,
you take away part of the agricultural base, but the agricultural base has to feed the people, so that delicate balance has to be always kept in mind. A third factor in Palm Beach County was the skyline of West Palm Beach, which is growing dramatically, and then of course the rise of the middle cities in Lantana, Lake Worth, and in Boynton Beach. But the fifth area is downtown Boca. And downtown Boca, which is only 344 acres, has become a major part of the Palm Beach County planning.
Now, why do you think that is so important to Palm Beach County?
Oh, it's essential to Palm Beach County because obviously you and I are a little biased. I love Boca Raton. I think
you
Boca
think so?
Raton.
I've only been here for 30 years.
I know. It's we have this beautiful environment to be in. We have the greatest libraries. We've got the greatest parks. We have over 1,600 acres of parks. Just think of that.
Hey,
1,600 acres versus 340 acres of 44 acres, which is downtown Boca. There's a 5-to-1 ratio of parks to downtown. People tell me, well, how much is downtown? And we've got probably the greatest hospital, the Boca Raton Regional Hospital. Jerry Fidelius.
Unbelievable job.
And we got great doctors, and so it's a very desirable place to live. Our high school is rated #1 in the state, Boca Raton High School. Our other private schools are substantial. I mean, they're incredible. So there's a lot to be offered here. Now, it becomes incumbent upon the people who are going to manage the city, and governance plays a vital role in the quality of life in Boca Raton.
So tell me a little bit about, since you've been here since the early 2000s and you've seen some
I moved
of this
back
growth,
in the early 2000s
from
from Miami-Dade.
From Miami-Dade. Tell me a
Which
little
I don't
bit
even recognize anymore. By the way, the growth of Miami-Dade, the skyline of Miami-Dade has changed so much. I lived there much of my adult life, and I go back and don't even recognize it. That is the growth of Florida.
Sure.
Now, the growth of Miami has been substantially with a lot of offshore money.
Right. But when we're talking about Boca, one of the things that I find interesting when a lot of the people that talk about the growth and they're upset about the growth, they don't seem to ever bring up the photos of the buildings that were torn down that are replaced when these new buildings come up. And I will say, and I will say this to the viewers, there are projects that have gone up in Boca Raton that when I drive by, I have to question what were they thinking, okay? But they're not necessarily the fault of the city council or the current administration, because I don't think they thought that they were going to come out of the ground the way that they actually came out of the ground for, okay? Nor do I think that anyone should be judged by one project. I think they should be judged by the sum of the totality of all, not one. Okay, so, you know, a perfect example is the one on Palmetto Park Road. Okay, I think you and I have had multiple conversations about that project.
I mean, somebody pointed out to me that if they took those units and stacked them one on top of each other, it'd be the second tallest building in the United States. It's quite, they call it the cruise ship.
It's absolutely amazing to me, but which is a perfect example. I do not like the look of that building at all. I just don't. I think it's just.
But let's talk about other things downtown. We have a new apartment building at the corner of Federal and Camino Real, 101 Meisner, beautiful building, and leasing up very quickly. And people who move in there are largely from the Northeast and love being in Boca Raton, and they can walk to the restaurants in downtown Boca. They love urban living.
And that is where the Mandarin's
The Mandarin is going to be there, and the Mandarin Hotel, what a tremendous economic impact to have a hotel of that status in downtown Boca Raton.
And they're also going to have residences there as well.
And then they'll have the Boca residence as well, a Mandarin residence is the kind of, you know what amazes me? What absolutely amazes me is the price of properties today.
Sure.
The Bristol condominium in Palm Beach starts at $10 million and goes up to $22 million.
Staggering.
This is for a condo. This is for a condo. And they're selling out. So the amount of money that's coming into Palm Beach County, that's coming into Boca Raton, that's a good thing. Now, what does that equate to? It equates, that type of growth equates to prosperity. It means consumer spending. It means tax money that's coming in. It means more jobs. It means more businesses that come into the community. And as a result of that, that spiral, that economic foundation is fantastic.
So, walk me through this a little bit. With your expertise with growth and the things that you went through at Palm Beach County, there had to have been naysayers. You're not going to convince me that when you were sitting on that planning commission that you didn't go through some similar situations that we're going through right now in Boca Raton. Or was it just all roses and peaches?
There's always been naysayers. I like to refer to back in 1965. I was a political science major with John DeGrove, one of the great political scientists that taught at FAU, and we did an urban planning class. And as a result, a young lady and I, another very good student, I always picked a good student to be my partner, and she came. And we did a community assessment of the power structure in Boca Raton. And we did it by simply walking around and say, who's in charge here? And get a survey. And then when the same names continue to perk out, you know who's in charge. Then we ask, what's the major issue here? What do you think? Growth. 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 There were 8,000 people in Boca Raton, and they start talking about growth. So growth is always, any time that there is a new development, every time a crane pulls up and there's there's those who are hailing it, and there are those who are going to cringe. Oh my God, no more people, no more. Well, it's not going to stop. It's just not going to stop. And it, obviously, since 1965, excuse me, when the population of Boca was 8,000 people, and people were saying no more growth, that has just, there's always been that element. Somebody once pointed out to me that there was a cartoon in the office of an attorney here, and it said, coming soon, and they were about to paint the name, and then there was the people next to it, we are opposed to, and they're waiting for the people to paint
That's exactly what it is.
So there's always going to be the people who oppose growth.
Well, on that note, tomorrow we're going to continue this series.
Oh, good.
And I'm looking forward to coming back tomorrow as we start to continue this series. But I really thank you for coming in, Armand. And as we go through this, what are the folks going to be looking forward to tomorrow? What can we kind of tease in with tomorrow that we're going to go over that is going to be a hot topic?
Well, I'd like to talk about, of course, we have an election coming up here in Boca Raton, and I think that governance plays a huge role.
Sure.
I just had a discussion with somebody the other day about being very familiar with Dade County politics, and I've served on the commission in Dade County as well. And Coral Gables is probably one of the finest communities in Dade County. They also had the most restrictive deed restrictions of any municipality within the county. In fact, they did. They couldn't have a pickup truck. People would
so we'll be talking about that tomorrow?
We're going to talk about what the impact that had on that community.
Good. Well, you heard it here, folks. Tomorrow, tune back in to the Boca Voice. We're going to be going over not only growth, but we're going to be going over governance and the probability of what it would happen to a city if it's over-governed. We look forward to seeing you. Thanks for joining. Armand, thanks for jumping. I'm really looking forward to the series.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.